He complied with the subpoena.
We would have
time's expired.
We would have loved that.
Do any other members wish to be heard? Chair recognizes Ms. Mace from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Chairman Comer. First of all, my first question is, who bribed Hunter Biden to be here today? That's my first question. Second question, you are the epitome of white privilege, coming into the Oversight Committee, spitting in our face, ignoring a congressional subpoena to be deposed. What are you afraid of? You have no balls to come up here and...
Mr. Chairman, point of inquiry.
Mr. Chairman,
if the ladies recognize...
If the gentlelady wants to hear from Hunter Biden, we can hear from him right now, Mr. Chairman. Let's take a vote and hear from Hunter Biden. What are you afraid of?
Hold on. Order.
Are women allowed to speak in here or no? Are women allowed to speak in here or no? Could you keep interrupting me?
I'll interrupt the chairman. I don't know that he's a lady.
I think that that Hunter Biden should be arrested right here, right now, and go straight to jail. Our nation is founded on the rule of law.
Come on.
And the premise that the law applies equally to everyone, no matter what your last
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Point of order.
It doesn't matter who you are.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Biggs over here.
Donald Trump Jr.
Biggs over here.
State your point, Mr. Biggs.
Yeah, my point of order is this. Are we going to continue on with this blatant interruption? This is absurd and inappropriate. I intend to give my statement. I don't intend to have anybody interrupted. I'm not going to interrupt your statements. I think you should have decorum and courtesy and don't act like a bunch of nimrods.
You just interrupted a woman.
And that's five.
I got permission.
Can we agree? Everyone has
Mr.
5
Chairman,
minutes. Can we agree?
Point of order again. The assertion that I interrupted was absolutely false. That's typical of the gentleman who spoke it. I got permission to speak from the chairman. I spoke. I was interrupted yet again by the gentleman who doesn't choose to go through the chair and follow proper order. I encourage us, I think if we're going to have any respect at all, we need to have proper decorum.
Well said.
I'd like to finish.
The rules are everyone's going to be recognized for 5 minutes. Anyone that wants to be recognized will be recognized for 5 minutes. Ms. Mace has 4 minutes and 13 seconds left. Chair recognizes Ms. Mace.
It does not matter who you are, where you come from, or who your father is, or your last name. Yes, I'm looking at you, Hunter Biden, as I'm speaking to you. You are not above the law at all. The facts in this case are crystal clear. This committee used and issued a lawful subpoena to Hunter Biden, a critical witness in this committee's investigation into Biden family corruption. Hunter Biden and his lawyers did not claim privilege of any kind because clearly he has none. They didn't contest the legitimacy of our reasons for issuing this subpoena, no reasons, because they clearly are legitimate. And yet he refused to comply. Trump's family members, Don Trump Jr., he did not defy a congressional subpoena. He showed up multiple times for multiple depositions for several hours. In doing so, Hunter Biden broke the law. He did so deliberately. You did so flagrantly. You showed up on the Hill, on the Senate side, the day of that congressional subpoena to defy it and spit in the face of this committee. That's what you did. The question the American people are asking us is, what is Hunter Biden so afraid of? Why can't you show up for a congressional deposition? You're here for a political stunt. This is just a PR stunt to you. This is just a game that you are playing with the American people. You're playing with the truth. Hunter Biden wasn't afraid to sell access to Joe Biden to the highest bidder when he was in elected office. He wasn't afraid to trade on the Biden brand, peddle influence, and share those ill-gotten gains with members of his family, including Joe Biden. He wasn't afraid to compromise the integrity of the presidency and vice presidency by involving Joe Biden in shady business deals with our foreign adversaries. But Hunter Biden, you were too afraid to show up for a deposition, and you still can't today. I believe that Hunter Biden should be held completely in contempt. I think he should be hauled off to jail right now, because it wasn't long ago, too, my friends on the other side of the aisle, that you also believed in the power of a congressional subpoena. Not long ago at all. You believed in holding those who refused to comply with a congressional subpoena accountable. And I stood with each and every one of you. I am the only member in this room today who has held a member of my own party in contempt of Congress for not showing up for a subpoena. And I see nothing but complete hypocrisy on the other side of the aisle. The ranking member of this committee even so eloquently put it, the lesson is, please tell your children out there in America, If you get a subpoena to go before Congress, go. You have a legal responsibility to do so. So the hypocrisy is stunning. What are we to tell our children today? There's nothing the other side can say with a straight face. As the only member of this committee to vote to hold a member of contempt of my own party, let me be clear, this should not be a partisan issue. If Congress issues a subpoena, you show up, period. This is not a responsibility we take lightly. It brings no joy for us to do this, but the president's son broke the law and must be held accountable in the same way anybody else would. I urge my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to do so. And my last message to you, Hunter Biden, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes.
Will the gentlelady yield for a question? Will the gentlelady yield? Will my friend yield from South Carolina?
Sure.
I do want to commend the gentlelady who was the only Republican who stood up and voted to hold in contempt the Republican members of the House who blatantly and categorically refused to comply with subpoenas that came from the bipartisan January 6th committee. I would like to ask my friend, Ms. Mace from South Carolina, whether she's aware of all the case law which says that the committee has to engage in good faith interaction with the witnesses they've called and they're supposed to arrive at a solution. And what do you think about the fact that the chairman on multiple occasions gave this witness the opportunity to come before the full committee and he agreed to that?
We issued a congressional subpoena, and I know with your constitutional law background, you know exactly what that means, and he should have showed up. And because of your vote and because of your statements, you should be voting to hold this man in contempt of Congress today, right now, if you're going to be consistent on your own policies and your own words.
Gentlelady's time's expired. Chair recognizes Mr. Moskowitz for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's good to see you after a long break. So I'm listening to the gentlelady from South Carolina about the witness being afraid to come in front of the committee. It's interesting. He's here. He doesn't seem to be too afraid. In fact, for some reason, the chairman, who on multiple occasions invited the witness to come on TV, apparently the chairman wants to pretend like his statements on television or in interviews don't matter, but it didn't happen once, it didn't happen twice, it happened multiple times. The chairman said the witness can choose whether to come to a deposition or to a public hearing in front of the committee. The witness accepted the chairman's invitation. It just so happens the witness is here. If the committee wants to hear from the witness and the chairman gave the witness that option, then the only folks that are afraid to hear from the witness with the American people watching are my friends on the other side of the aisle. I don't know if there's a proper motion, Mr. Chairman, but I'll make a motion. Let's vote. Let's take a vote. Who wants to hear from Hunter right now, today? Anyone? Come on. Who wants to hear from Hunter?
Motion's out of order. Yeah.
No one. So I'm a visual learner, and the visual is clear. Nobody over there don't want to hear from the witness.
No, absolutely not. I mean, look, I was the only member on the oversight committee yesterday that has voted to hold a member of my own party in contempt of Congress, and I was so offended by Hunter Biden showing up and basically spitting in the face of the committee, like subpoenas, congressional subpoenas and depositions don't matter, they do matter. And when Democrats issued contempt of Congress charges, I was with them. And here we are, like it's no different whether you have an R or a D by your name, no matter who's in power, who's in the White House, everybody should be treated the same. That was my frustration. The fact that he showed up, it's just a PR stunt, you know that. He had a movie filming crew with him. I mean, come on, everybody sees it for what it is.
Would you question his manhood?
Oh, to emasculate Hunter Biden? No, I'm super proud of it because it's disgusting what he's done and makes a mockery of our institution, makes a mockery of our laws. Everybody should be able to follow the law, including Hunter Biden. Like, even if he wants to come in and plead the Fifth, he should come in and plead the Fifth. Mm-hmm. It's really not that hard. He's with the film crew. I mean, come on. Making a movie. Just a PR stunt. And it's offensive to people on both sides. It should be offensive to both people on both sides of the aisle.
Separately, just on the Speaker Johnson situation, he's dealing with a complication right now. he essentially is in the same position that Kevin McCarthy was in. He cut the same deals that Kevin McCarthy did in terms of overall spending. So the question is, what did it achieve to dump Kevin McCarthy?
Well, I mean, the former speaker wasn't someone you could trust. I trust Mike Johnson, and I said early on, I don't agree with Mike Johnson on everything. I mean, those of us that have staked out certain positions on certain issues, whether it's immigration or spending in the budget, like, no one's going to move from that position, but he's someone I believe that we can trust. If he says X, he means X. He doesn't mean Y or Z or 1, 2, 3. And so, you know, it's a difficult situation. We have a very slim majority. I hope that there's not a government shutdown, but there wasn't a single nickel cut, according to Chuck Schumer. He's very proud of that fact. And there's nothing there that further secures the border. I mean, everyone is seeing what's happening on the southern border. This isn't make-believe. This isn't pretend. The number of people that are coming across here, and now every city, large and small, are becoming border cities. I mean, we have to do something about the border. I believe in that argument.
But you put in somebody who cut a bad deal. You could put in somebody who essentially is a novice speaker and is getting ruled by Democrats.
I don't know the ins and outs of the deals that were cut. I know some top line numbers. That's what I know. But this place is about making deals. To move forward, you have to make deals, no matter who is speaker or who's leader, etc. That's what this place is about. But it's also about being able to trust someone and trust their word when you are making those deals. And Mike Johnson is a guy you can trust, even if I disagree with him on different policies. We won't agree on everything, but he's still someone that I believe we can all trust. And that goes a long way on the Hill when it's just a cesspool of corruption and mean people and just, you know, not telling the truth, and it's about ego. Mike Johnson isn't about ego. He's going to be an honest broker, and that's more than anything we could ask for.
I guess the criticism is that, you know, you went to this length to push out the former speaker, and now you guys are staring at a government shutdown in the same place you were months ago.
Yeah, I mean, no one said it would change from that perspective. I mean, we're going to have this issue. We're going to have people within our conference that don't support minibuses or omnibuses or CRs.
Anything that you said?
No, absolutely not. I mean, look, I was the only member on the oversight committee yesterday that has voted to hold a member of my own party in contempt of Congress, and I was so offended by Hunter Biden showing up and basically spitting in the face of the committee, like subpoenas, congressional subpoenas and depositions don't matter, they do matter. And when Democrats issued contempt of Congress charges, I was with them. And here we are, like, it's no different whether you have an R or a D by your name, no matter who's in power, who's in the White House. Everybody should be treated the same. That was my frustration. The fact that he showed up, it's just a PR stunt. You know that. He had a movie filming crew with him. I mean, come on, everybody sees it for what it is.
Would you question his manhood?
Oh, to emasculate Hunter Biden? No, I'm super proud of it because it's disgusting what he's done and makes a mockery of our institution, makes a mockery of our laws. Everybody should be able to follow the law, including Hunter Biden. Like, even if he wants to come in and plead the Fifth, he should come in and plead the Fifth. It's really not that hard. He's with the film crew. I mean, come on. Making a movie. Just a PR stunt. And it's offensive to people on both sides. It should be offensive to both people on both sides of the aisle.
Separately, just on the Speaker Johnson situation, he's dealing with a complication right now.
Yeah.
He essentially is in the same position that Kevin McCarthy was in. He cut the same deals that Kevin McCarthy did in terms of overall spending. So the question is, what did it achieve to dump Kevin McCarthy?
Well, I mean, the former speaker wasn't someone you could trust. I trust Mike Johnson, and I said early on, I don't agree with Mike Johnson on everything. I mean, those of us that have staked out certain positions on certain issues, whether it's immigration or spending in the budget, like, no one's going to move from that position, but he's someone I believe that we can trust. If he says X, he means X. He doesn't mean Y or Z or 1, 2, 3. And so, you know, it's a difficult situation. We have a very slim majority. I hope that there's not a government shutdown, but there wasn't a single nickel cut, according to Chuck Schumer. He's very proud of that fact. And there's nothing there that further secures the border. I mean, everyone is seeing what's happening on the southern border. This isn't make-believe. This isn't pretend. The number of people that are coming across here, and now every city, large and small, are becoming border cities. I mean, we have to do something about the border. I believe in that argument.
But you put in somebody who cut a bad deal. You could put in somebody who essentially is a novice speaker and is getting ruled by Democrats.
I don't know the ins and outs of the deals that were cut. I know some top line numbers. That's what I know. But this place is about making deals. To move forward, you have to make deals, no matter who is speaker or who's leader, etc. That's what this place is about. But it's also about being able to trust someone and trust their word when you are making those deals. And Mike Johnson is a guy you can trust, even if I disagree with him on different policies. We won't agree on everything, but he's still someone that I believe we can all trust. And that goes a long way on the Hill when it's just a cesspool of corruption and mean people and just, not telling the truth, and it's about ego. Mike Johnson isn't about ego. He's going to be an honest broker, and that's more than anything we could ask for.
I guess the criticism is that, you went to this length to push out the former speaker, and now you guys are staring at a government shutdown in the same place you were months ago.
Yeah, I mean, no one said it would change from that perspective. I mean, we're going to have this issue. We're going to have people within our conference that don't support minibuses or omnibuses or CRs. I'm one of those people. So my position hasn't changed regardless of who's speaker, but we absolutely needed new leadership that we could trust. And we have that in Mike Johnson. No matter what position or deals he stakes out, he's an honest broker. And that's to me, I respect that, even if I disagree with him.
Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
You, Ms. Mace.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our witnesses this morning for your service to our country and for being here and spending some time with us today. Every time a colleague of mine on the other side of the aisle doesn't want to have an ideological discussion or discussion of real policy that makes real differences in the lives of the men and women in our country, whether they're serving our nation or otherwise, they just invoke the word Trump. It's just Trump, Trump, Trump. That's all they can talk about. And quite frankly, I find it tiring and nauseating because we have a real opportunity here to make a difference in the lives of every American, and especially for those that are literally putting their lives on the line to serve our country. And, I'm one of the only Republicans up here on the Hill who has talked about Roe v. Wade, who has talked about finding common ground, who has talked about moderating on abortion and finding out where both sides can find agreement. And there's so much where we can find agreement on, but I have yet to find one Democrat who's willing to work with me on the issue of abortion and finding common ground. And the minute you ask them what their limits are on abortion, they won't answer the question. They flee the room, they get the heck out of the way because they don't want to answer the question, because the left often has absolutely no limits on abortion. That's a travesty here today, too, and shouldn't really be the point of the conversation, because unfortunately, the policies of this administration, the results speak for themselves. Recruiting is down, retention is down, morale is down, while demonizing the military and our veterans is up. And I remember when I was graduating from the Citadel a long time ago, 25 years ago, my own father's concerns about the military. We didn't have the word woke back then, but he saw what was changing. He spent 28 years in the United States Army. He is the most decorated living graduate the Citadel has ever seen in its history. And I remember the conversations we would have and how much the military had changed. And in 25 years, it's way off base now with some of the policies we're seeing, particularly with this administration. And so, the United States military has long been held to the American public as the most respected and trusted institutions of our country, and rightfully so. It's revered. The standing exists because they've remained above the fray of partisan politics, but politics has now gotten into our military, and we've seen the demonization of our active duty military and our veterans. And so I find this conversation deeply disappointing because, as was mentioned earlier, I believe by Mr. Lohmeyer, about lethality and why qualifications actually matter, because when you're in the trenches, when you're in war, it doesn't matter what you look like. So my first question is going to go to Mr. Lohmeyer. Talking about lethality, you've been in the trenches, you've been in war, you've been in combat theater. Does the color of your skin matter when you're in the trenches, when you're in combat?
The answer is no, it doesn't matter, and we've sometimes joked in veteran circles that the last thing that our active duty troops currently wearing the uniform say when they're getting deployed downrange to the desert or to Eastern Europe is, geez, I wish I had another diversity, equity, and inclusion training before hitting the road.
Does gender matter when you're in war, when you're in combat, when you're in battle?
No, I'd say no again, but it also depends on strength and depends on your profession, and I have no problem saying that. That's why we have standards in place.
Does sexual orientation matter if you're
I'd
wearing a
say
uniform?
no, it does not incidentally matter, but if it becomes a matter of activist political orientation, then it could influence the military workplace.
I don't think anyone believes having people from diverse backgrounds in the military is a bad thing. I haven't heard any of that today. I think everybody in the country would welcome diversity no matter what industry they're in. Can you explain specifically how what we're seeing in terms of DEI programs today that goes far beyond that? Mr. Lohmeyer.
You mentioned the issue that Trump's name is invoked as a talking point, an easy go-to talking point.
To not talk about the issues
Right.
of policy.
And I'll use that to answer your question, Congresswoman. You know, I had a base commander who, in the lead up to an election, threatened forfeiture of pay for all of the members of his base if he caught a whiff of Trump's support in the lead up to the election. In my view, that's court-martialable. It's illegal. It's a violation of the Hatch Act. And it was a direct, express outcome of his ideological worldview. He was a friendly guy. He was loved and respected by a lot of people, but he created a climate of fear, and his top issues were, and by the way, Heritage Foundation and Congressman Waltz just recently did a report of the National Independent Panel of Military Service and Readiness, and I've got feedback right here from people in the uniform. Active military members' trust in the military is declining for the overt politicization of the military workplace, transgender policies, withdrawal from Afghanistan debacle, reduction in physical fitness standards to even the playing field for diversity's sake. So all of the things that we've heard today aren't necessarily the issues of progressivism that are hurting the military. They're in fact what our military members are saying are the issues for which they're losing their trust in their senior leaders. So when they hear a Mark Milley say, well, I want to learn about white rage, you at least get half of the force shutting off and losing trust in their military leadership. Now, he was chairman of the Joint Chiefs when he said it. When the Secretary of Defense says things, there are issues a policy memorandum saying that it was a Supreme Court decision that's hurting our recruiting and readiness, when they themselves have been speaking up for 2 years saying, no, that's not the reason we don't want to stay in the service. Then there's a divide that takes place, and it's that divide that I think we've been invited here to talk about. And so that's my answer to that question. I think that's at the heart of the matter, is that ideology divides. It's always divided. And none of the panel members up here seem to have any issue with the idea of naturally occurring diversity, which has been a beautiful and lovely part both of nature and of the blessing of the United States of America. We are naturally a diverse group of people, and it's because we have the freedom to think and speak clearly and share those views. And ideology also shuts that down too. And it's an enforced equality of thought, of expression. It's discriminatory.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
From South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Secretary Austin, for being with us today. Cancer is a serious illness, and we wish you the best in your recovery. I've been disappointed today in some of the responses. I do want to ask a question, is when did you first receive your diagnosis?
It was early December.
And then who did you tell? Did you tell your staff when you received the diagnosis?
I did not. Again, as I said earlier.
Did you tell your staff you received the diagnosis, yes or no?
No, I did not.
Okay. When did you learn that you needed surgery?
Well, as soon as that diagnosis was made, you know, you have.
Okay, and then when did you tell your staff you needed surgery? When you found out you needed surgery, did you then inform your staff that you needed surgery?
I didn't tell my staff that I needed surgery.
When did you schedule the surgery?
It was mid-December.
Okay, and that was the December 22nd surgery?
Yes.
When you scheduled the surgery, did you, when you go under surgery for prostate cancer, do you need to be like totally knocked out, right? You can't be awake for the surgery, you have to be totally unconscious
Right,
and incapacitated, right? Yes or no?
That's right.
Okay, thank you. And then the date of the first surgery was December 22nd. At what point did you tell your staff you were going under the knife, going to be unconscious and incapacitated?
Again,
Did you tell your staff that you were in the hospital and going to be under the knife?
I have admitted that I didn't get this right. I should have notified the president of my my cancer diagnosis and my.
So you didn't inform your staff in December when you had the December surgery that you were going to be incapacitated at all?
I knew I was going to be incapacitated, and I transferred authorities to the deputy secretary.
And then they had this emergency event. Well, that was January 1?
That's correct.
What time of day did that happen?
Late afternoon.
And then did you tell your staff late afternoon when it happened what was happening?
I didn't. My concern there was getting to the hospital.
You did not tell your staff that you were on the way to the hospital.
That's right.
Okay. When did your staff find out you were at the hospital?
I don't know when.
You don't know when you told your staff that you were at the hospital? Are you kidding me?
Again, as a patient in a hospital undergoing evaluation.
Okay, let me just back up. I have a minute and a half. If any American worker did what you did, they would be fired. And they aren't the number 2 in the chain of command of the greatest and most lethal fighting force in the world. And here you are, you're not informing anybody on your staff that this is happening, let alone the President of the United States, let alone the delay to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, let alone the delay to the Deputy Secretary. What happens? Now, I didn't serve, most of my family has served. So can you please tell me in just a few seconds, when a soldier goes AWOL, when they wear the uniform, when they put their lives on the line for our nation, for you, what happens when they go AWOL? What is the punishment?
Well, I wouldn't equate my going to the hospital and receiving treatment
Being
as going
incapacitated as a secretary here, yes, is going AWOL. So you don't equate disappearing, being incapacitated with being AWOL.
I didn't disappear. I was in a military
you didn't tell your staff.
facility in Washington,
You just
D.C.
testified you didn't tell your staff. Did you not? You just testified. What happens when a soldier goes AWOL? I have 20 seconds. What happens when a soldier goes AWOL?
We have to realize that, I have a fairly large.
Are they honorably or dishonorably discharged? Are they put into the brig? Are they what happens? Seriously, you're not even answering the questions. I'm not going to rest until someone, we should not rest until someone is held accountable. I am deeply disappointed in your response today. Thank you, and I yield back.
General time's expired. Chair now recognizes ranking member.
Everyone, the Subcommittee on Cybersecurity, Information Technology, and Government Innovation will now come to order. We welcome everyone this afternoon. Without objection, the chair may declare a recess at any time. I will now recognize myself for the purpose of making an opening statement. Good afternoon and welcome to this hearing of the Subcommittee on Cybersecurity, Information Technology, and Government Innovation. The American people and those of us who serve on their behalf here in Congress are angry that foreign adversaries such as China are using cyber warfare to attack and weaken our nation. Earlier this month, for instance, a federal cybersecurity advisory confirmed that PRC state-sponsored actors are pre-positioning for possible disruptive cyber attacks against the U.S. critical infrastructure. These actors are hacking into computer systems, then lying low and undetected for, in some cases, years. A tactic termed living off the land, so that they can be activated to wreak havoc should a major conflict with the U.S. arise. The threat is real, but there are laws on the books designed to create safeguards and guardrails. This includes restrictions on what the federal government buys. Each year, Uncle Sam purchases about $100 billion in IT products and services alone. Numerous bans and prohibitions exist to both further U.S. trade policy objectives and to ensure our national security. No agency has a more crucial role in ensuring these bans and prohibitions are enforced than the General Services Administration, or GSA. The GSA serves as the primary government-wide purchasing agent. It manages tens of billions of dollars in annual contract spending. That brings us to the GSA Office of Inspector General report that is the subject of today's hearing. Last month, the OIG issued a report entitled GSA Purchased Chinese-Manufactured Video Conference Cameras and Justified it using Misleading Market Research. The report raises issues that we will explore today. The IG found that GSA, via 2 separate purchases occurring in March and October of 2022, bought 150 video conference cameras made in the PRC in violation of the Trade Agreements Act, or the TAA. With limited exceptions, the TAA prohibits agencies from buying products made in China or other non-TAA compliant nations such as Russia and Iran. The IG found, security vulnerabilities with these specific cameras were documented by a private security company and the subject of a CISA public alert. The IG found that the cameras were bought by a GSA contracting officer who relied on egregiously flawed information provided by her own GSA colleagues. This was, quote, inaccurate, incomplete, and misleading market research. indicating no other cameras were available for purchase that could meet the agency's need. According to the IG report, the GSA CIO, who is testifying today, signed off on both camera purchases, though he later acknowledged he did so without having reviewed the market research performed by his staff. Mr. Sheaves also signed off on the GSA management response to the IG report. That response did not contest the factual narrative laid out in the report or the IG's assertion that the purchase of the cameras was a violation of TAA. GSA, in fact, concurred with nearly all the IG's recommendations, including that the GSA administrator should take appropriate action against GSA IT and GSA IDT personnel to address the misleading information provided to the contracting officer. However, GSA has since provided arguments and documents to our committee staff that challenge key elements of the IG report, including that the camera purchases violated the law. So we'll hear their side of the story today, and I hope we can learn why it was omitted from GSA's management response to the IG report. More broadly, I hope GSA can give us some assurance today that it's going to fix the problems that IG identified and ensure going forward that it's complying with laws that promote safe purchasing. With that, I'll now yield to the Ranking Member Connolly for his opening statement.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. The General Services Administration.
In closing, I want to thank our panelists once again for their testimony today. And I want to encourage you all, please stay in touch with this committee, but with my office. I am deeply passionate about this issue. I come from a background in technology. When I got my first job, I was a programmer. And I have since been fighting for things, especially for women and kids. And this is a very important issue. I've seen this kind of thing have devastating consequences, even deadly consequences when we're talking about non-consensual pornography. I wanted to piggyback on what Dr. Walden just talked about, civil damages not being enough. You're right. Any victim who's a victim of a non-consensual image or video, real or deep fake, should be able to take possession of that and know that it's never going to be seen everywhere, anywhere, ever again for the rest of their life, if that's what they want. But that's not really a thing today. I mean, because these things can be found online and everywhere. Once that's out, it's forever. And these victims should be allowed to get their content back, real or fake, if their image and their likeness is part of it, and know that it's been destroyed forever from every device, any cloud, anywhere online. And we're not there yet, and it's deeply troubling. So civil damages are not enough, and in some cases, I mean, there's not even criminal action here. I mean, I look at the Violence Against Women Act, and it's just a civil right of action, not even criminal. I think it's, if you're doing voyeurism at the federal level, you got to be like over international water for it to be against federal law under Title 18. Like, it's insane to me. And so I'm deeply passionate about trying to correct some of this, correct course, find the gaps, like as you said, Mr. Szabo, in definitions. While we were sitting here today, I went into the South Carolina's Code of Laws, and I just looked up the word porn. Doesn't exist in South Carolina's Code of Laws. So when we're talking about definitions, certainly there is, I agree with you, there is room for improvement. There are gaps here, and I really want to figure out how we move forward in a bipartisan manner at the federal level, but also with states, especially my home state of South Carolina. There's a lot of work to do. $500 fine for voyeurism the first time as a misdemeanor is wrong, and it's offensive, and it should be a much more expensive. We want to make sure that a man who does that to over a dozen women in South Carolina doesn't ever do it again, and a $500 fine and 3 years in jail just doesn't cut it. And the law is not clear on whether or not if it's the first offense, or if, let's say, for example, in the example that I shared, if it's over a dozen women, images and videos this individual took, if it would be a felony because it's multiple victims. The law is not clear. So there certainly is, definitely room for improvement in our state as well. And I looked up impersonations, forgery in South Carolina law is only related to financial transactions mostly. So there was just so much room to improve here, both at the federal and the state level. I want you to know that my office is very much keen on adding to our portfolio of legislation constitutionally, as it makes sense, not overdoing it, but just the right amount so that victims are no longer victimized, or when they are, that it's quickly corrected. So with that, and without objection, all members will have 5 legislative days within
5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On March 1st, 2024, Joe Biden stated he did not interact with Hunter or Jim Biden business associates. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask unanimous consent to enter into a record New York Post article. Biden insists he did not interact with his
Without objections ordered.
We're going to go fast here. I have strictly yes or no questions. On that note, the New York Post article, Joe Biden also said, read the record of every single witness. So I did. I first read Devin Archer's deposition, and he interacted with Joe Biden. Then I read the transcripts of Wab Walker, Eric Schwerin, George Burgess, Kevin Morris, Tony Bobulinski, and Jason Galanis. And every single one of them interacted with Joe Biden. And that's just the people we interviewed. Mr. Galanis, my first questions are for you. Did Hunter Biden call Joe Biden with Elena Badarina on the line on May 4th, 2014, yes or no?
Yes.
In that call, did Hunter Biden state on this call with Joe Biden that everything is good and we're moving forward?
Yes, he did.
Okay, on the same call, did Joe Biden in the call was saying, okay, then you be good to my boy?
Yes, he said that as well.
Okay, did Badarina agree to put $20 million into one of Hunter Biden's business projects days later after this phone call?
Yes.
Okay, did Hunter Biden ever take a call from Joe Biden while at the Peninsula Bar in New York?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Did Hunter Biden ever take a call from Joe Biden while at the Peninsula Bar in New York?
Yes, he did.
During this call, did Hunter Biden update Joe Biden on progress in landing a business partnership with Harvest Fund Management?
Yes.
Okay. Was Harvest a $300 billion Chinese financial services company closely tied to the Chinese Communist Party?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Is Hunter Biden involved with Harvest?
Hunter Biden is involved in Harvest in 2 ways, through BHR, which is the fund.
Yes or no? Was Hunter
Biden
involved with Harvest? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. As part of the deal,
extensive emails to that effect.
as part of the deal, did Hunter Biden want the company to reserve a board seat for Joe Biden?
Yes.
Okay. Did Henry Zhao, a Chinese businessman, want assurances Joe Biden would join the board? Yes or no?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
He's expressed that in emails as well.
Okay, thank you.
And
Did Hunter Biden draft an email stating, please also remind Henry Zhao of our conversation about a board seat for a certain relation of mine. Devin and I golfed with that relation earlier this week, and we discussed this very idea again. And as always, he remains very, very keen on the opportunity. Here is a photo of Joe Biden and Devin Archer and Hunter Biden golfing days before the alleged email draft. Do you believe a certain relation of mine refers to Joe Biden?
I don't think there's any question. It was based on first-hand conversations with Devin Archer, who was in that picture and at that golf meeting.
Did you ever meet with Devin Archer where Hunter took calls from his father?
Yes.
Okay. During one of these phone calls, did Hunter Biden tell Joe Biden that he and Henry Zhao needed help getting, quote, getting across the finish line?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Mr. Bobulinski, do you recall receiving an email that floated the possibility of giving 10% ownership of Sinohawk to Joe Biden through Hunter Biden?
Yes.
Okay, my last questions are for both of you very quickly. Mr. Bobulinski and Mr. Galanis, you both stated you were told not to use Joe Biden's name in communications, correct, Mr. Bobulinski?
Correct.
Mr. Galanis?
Yes.
Okay. Did Joe Biden participate in phone conversations and meetings with Hunter Biden, his business associates, and foreign interests, yes or no? Mr. Bobulinski?
He clearly did.
Okay, Mr. Galanis, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. In Hunter Biden's deposition, he said he did not involve his father in his business. Did Hunter Biden lie under oath, yes or no? Mr. Bobulinski?
Yes.
Mr. Galanis?
If that's what he said, yes, I will be true.
Is Joe Biden lying when he says he did not interact with Hunter Biden, Jim Biden, their business partners, or forward interests? Yes or no?
Yes.
Mr. Galanis?
Yes.
All right. In a debate on October 22nd, 2020, Joe Biden denied Hunter Biden made money from China. Then Hunter Biden, his business associates, and foreign interests include money from Chinese businesses, business partners, and or interests. Yes or no? Mr. Bobulinski?
I'm sorry. Did the
Hunter
Biden family make
money from Chinese
Correct.
business interests? Yes. Mr. Galanis? Did Hunter Biden receive money from Chinese business interests? Yes or no?
Yes, he was.
Okay, thank
yes,
you.
he had economic interest, and yes.
All right. Joe Biden
Yes,
has repeatedly claimed that he was not involved in Hunter Biden, Jim Biden, or any other Biden family business deals. Today, our witnesses have proved otherwise. Today, we've established Joe Biden lied about interacting with Hunter Biden's business associates. It is my belief Joe Biden is the closer for Hunter Biden, Jim Biden, and their business associates in foreign interests. Good luck to the left proving otherwise. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Chair now recognizes Ms. Porter.
Thank you so much. I will now recognize myself for 5 minutes. Generally, my questions will be for the entire panel. I'm a big fan of yes or no, so if you want to elaborate, I would just ask that you make it quick because I'd like to hear from a lot of voices here this morning. The executive order is actually one of the longest EOs ever written at over 100 pages, and it absolutely will encumber tech in a lot of ways, as we heard from our witnesses this morning. My first question is, the Commerce Department could not protect Secretary Raimondo's own email account from being hacked last year. Yet this EO requires firms to share with the agency on a daily basis the crown jewel secrets of the most powerful AI systems on Earth. First question, can we trust Commerce to ensure this highly sensitive data doesn't fall into the hands of China or another foreign adversary? Yes or no?
No. I think we've seen that there's a need for a greater discussion of improving cybersecurity, both in the government and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
No, and we shouldn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. According to the executive order, the over 100-page executive order, irresponsible use of AI could exacerbate, quote, social harms, including, quote, disinformation. Should we trust the government to be the ultimate arbiter of what is disinformation and what may cause social harm in AI systems? Mr. Thierer?
No.
No, and we should be concerned about the First Amendment approach of doing such.
Absolutely not.
I will say yes, and government with our civil society industry partners alongside of us.
Should AI model developers have to give the government all their test results and test data, even those concerning politics or religion? Mr. Thierer?
No.
I think it's a highly concerning proposal with significant consequences for innovation.
No.
You know what I'm going to say.
You're going to say yes. You're going to be the one
stakes.
dissenter this morning.
Especially in high stakes.
What are some of the, just very quickly, the risks if companies are giving their test data over to the government? Mr. Thierer?
There are security risks, of course. There are also concerns about how there might be speech meddling of various types with sort of jawboning that could be associated with that sort of heavy-handed approach.
Do you think, what would the government do with such information potentially?
Well, it depends. We know in the past there's been efforts by government authorities to utilize such information to try to curb certain types of behaviors or to try to intimidate certain people to do things against their will and without due process.
Ms. Huddleston?
Similarly, I think there are concerns about how this could have an impact on speech as well as innovation more generally, with the idea that innovators would have to seek permission from the government before engaging in their innovation rather than having it play out in the marketplace of ideas.
I think one of the other big effects, other than the government misuse, would be the chilling effects it would have on people using tools like this to say things that they think the government might not want them to say.
And I would just suggest that I think we're conflating surveillance technology and how we actually look at government on the surveillance side versus what the EO is actually dictating, which is accountability in the AI training data and the test beds as we look at high-stakes applications. So I would like us to just clarify that.
Okay, and then, well, my last point is, I think we can all learn something probably from recent history. The FBI's interpretation of the Hunter Biden laptop as Russian disinformation, and we had a number of over 20 former Intel officers and folks that wrote a letter saying it was Russian disinformation. Come to find out, it was not. I think that's a concern that a lot of folks have on what the government will do with data, what the government will do with information, what the government will do with testing information, algorithms, code and programming product, et cetera. The EO requires companies even considering developing dual-use foundation AI models to report to the government on an ongoing basis, again, about their most sensitive business secrets. Could the justification for using the DPA here be used in the future to demand highly sensitive plans and data from firms in any emerging technology field? Mr. Thierer?
Yes, it could, and we should avoid it for that reason.
Ms. Huddleston?
Yes, and it's concerning with the power that would give to the administrative state over technology more generally.
The EO offers no limiting principle on the use of the DPA, and so I think we could expect that people will continue to walk down this road.
And I would just suggest that the invocation of the DPA is coming in absence of congressional action. If Congress were to provide some parameters on how we exercise some of the, principles that are embedded in the EO, as well as things that congressional activities that we want to actually foster, I don't think we'd have that problem. Congress just needs to act and legislate.
All right, thank you. I want to thank our participants on the panel today. We appreciate your time, your insight, and expertise. And I will now yield 5 minutes to my esteemed colleague from Virginia.
Thank you. Chair now recognize Ms. Mace from South Carolina for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really can't believe this is the debate that we're having today, that we all simply that we want to do is, when we're doing the census, find out if we are polling citizens or non-citizens. We even watered it down not to offend the left and say, are you illegal? That's not what we're asking here. And when our districts are drawn at the federal level for congressional districts, you all know that it's based on population. You all know handily that you get an advantage when you're including illegal aliens, illegal immigrants, and non-citizens in the population census. We also know that the left wants illegals to vote in our elections. We've seen legislation drafted as such at the federal and state level. We've seen court rulings that would allow illegals to vote in our elections. That's what this is about, and you guys just want to sit here and not put our citizens first. I mean, the fact that this is the debate we're having today, and you guys are going to vote against this bill overwhelmingly, is just so shocking to me. I think we should have, I think when we're doing the census, we should absolutely know and count citizens versus non-citizens. We should only be drawing district maps based on who are citizens in our country. That is the fairest way to move forward, and I think it should be truly nonpartisan. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to yield back. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair now recognizes Ms. Mace from South Carolina for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Califf, thank you for being here today, and thank you for your work on scheduling reform and your recommendation that cannabis should be moved to Schedule 3. While I and many cannabis advocates believe this does not go far enough, this is a long overdue start. So my first question today is, I understand this issue now rests with the DEA, and I'm curious if you have an update on the timing of their decision.
Now, we're both from South Carolina. We know, I don't even know, but if I did, I couldn't tell you anyway. So the timing of a regulatory decision is something that would be up to the DEA, not up to me.
We think it'll happen this year, or have any idea?
I know that there's no reason for DEA to delay. I think they just have to take into account all the regulations that are in play.
Okay, thank you. If the DEA concurs with the FDA's recommendation, can you help me understand if the FDA will take on additional responsibilities, or if your role will change as it relates to cannabis?
This is a very complicated topic, but I'll just say that cannabis, remember there are over 30 different forms of cannabis now, different chemicals that are made, and it falls in this area where state regulation has been dominant. This is an area where I believe we would be better off if we had guidance from Congress about how to proceed, because we're not, medical marijuana is one thing where there's a medical purpose and it's proven through traditional medical pathways, but when it's used for recreational purposes, there is no medical benefit in that case, so it doesn't fall under our typical regulation. But what's in play with this and several other things that I think we'll probably talk with the chairman about here shortly, like CBD, the question is, how do we reduce harm that's done when it's used inappropriately or at a dose which is dangerous, or when it's packaged in a way to market it specifically to children? We're seeing some of this stuff packaged in gummy bears that easily mistaken for children's candy. But we're going to need help in a regulatory pathway, remembering that almost everything we do is there's a health benefit, like you create a new drug or a new device or a food for a health benefit. This is an area of harm reduction when it's used recreationally.
Right. Well, and also, I mean, it reduces the morbidity and the addiction to opioids prescribed by doctors too. I mean, there's just a huge amount of benefit I've seen it benefited in my own life. And welcome to my world. I'm a mom of teenage kids. I've seen packaging of things. I see what kids are bringing to school. Even in a state that prohibits cannabis, kids are doing it all over the place. And I have a bill called the States Reform Act. It puts, there's a balance between federal regulation and also regulation amongst the states. But one of the things you mentioned was about packaging. Myself, and like my colleagues, were concerned about the safeguards for our youth. And one of the things in the States Reform Act is it addresses the packaging that should not be marketed like it's candy or a candy bar or chips or whatever kind of candy is your favorite. In South Carolina, I understand these products. So I'm concerned about safeguards for youth and intoxicating hemp-derived products. So in South Carolina, these products are not age-gated or appropriately tested, and many of the packages do resemble candy or snacks and that sort of thing. And so for my family, it's an ongoing conversation about what looks cool and looks like it might be fun and exciting really is not, especially on a young brain.
Without revealing too much about my age, I'm a child of the 60s. So it'd be nice if in my lifetime we came up with a regulatory scheme where I think America, you know, whatever your belief is about use of the product, where these safety issues that you've referred to are written into law so that we have a scheme whereby we can regulate it. Because if it's not written into law, then we're, as I said, we're referees. You write the rules. We need the right rule book in order to play the referee role.
I would encourage you, and I would love for you to review the States Reform Act, a bill that I wrote last session that takes into account the regulatory side on the federal side, but also states being in the driver's seat. But one of the impositions in the bill is addressing and ensuring that we don't market to kids. Things aren't packaged to children and that sort of thing. And then I only have 20 seconds left. While I firmly support the right of Americans to make choices about what to put in their body, we can all agree it is a desirable outcome for less people to smoke cigarettes, the negative health effects of which are well known. Any comment on alternative non-nicotine products today while you're here in 5 seconds or less?
Well, all right, so yeah, there are several categories. Medications is one category where I hope we'll see more in the pipeline. It's not robust. When it comes to chemicals that are synthesized that also activate nicotine receptors, they also cause addiction to nicotine. So we've got to, and the inventiveness of entrepreneurs in this area is profound right now because chemistry has gotten so much better. So there's some things I'm very concerned about in tobacco nicotine and even compounds that are one component removed from nicotine, which may even be more potent in terms of addiction.
Thank you, and I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Get a lady.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And good morning, everyone. One crime by one illegal alien is one too many. Last year, an illegal alien who was deported in 2021 after being convicted in Charleston County, South Carolina, of sexually abusing a 9-year-old was convicted for illegally returning after it was discovered he used our wide open border to re-enter our country and return to Charleston, South Carolina. Last fall, in October, a young 3-year-old girl named Maddie Hines in South Carolina was tragically killed by an illegal alien in a car crash. The individual who committed the crime was deported under President Trump and his administration. The illegal was able to re-enter into the United States under Joe Biden because of his wide open and dangerous border policies that put American lives at risk. Several weeks ago, the Lowcountry was put on high alert as an illegal alien wanted by law enforcement in Dorchester County for 2 counts of unlawful possession of a firearm was on the run with this illegally possessed gun. In January, an illegal alien from Honduras murdered an American citizen in Columbia, South Carolina, our state's capital, after crossing the border illegally last year. Fentanyl trafficked across our southern border by criminal cartels has killed 1,660 South Carolinians alone. It's clear that the Biden administration's policies have turned every state in this nation into a border state, every town into a border town. We have had members of MS-13 gang arrested in Beaufort, South Carolina. We've had human trafficking busts. In fact, 3 years ago in my hometown, you've never heard of it, it's called Goose Creek, South Carolina, there was a human trafficking bust with 28 people arrested. 2 years ago in Somerville, South Carolina, there was a sex trafficking bust with over 20 people arrested. Joe Biden's open border policies have enabled an illegal alien crime wave to sweep across South Carolina and the nation. So I have a few questions for our witnesses today, and I want to thank you for being here. My first question will go to you, Mr. Cuccinelli. I found it staggering that in 2021, in a memo in 2021, Secretary Mayorkas wrote, "The fact that an individual is a removable non-citizen will not alone be the basis of an enforcement action against them." Why is Joe Biden and his administration waiting until these illegals commit serious crimes before deporting them, if they deport them at all?
I was going to say, in fact, they're not deporting them even when they do commit serious crimes, and I can only conclude that they want the border invasion that they have opened the borders for their own reasons.
Right. I've actually talked to different police and law enforcement agents across the country, most recently the NYPD. And in New York, for example, they're letting illegals just completely walk out of there when they're committing heinous crimes. Can you speak to the policies put in place by Joe Biden's Department of Homeland Security that have disempowered ICE, allowing criminal aliens to roam free, victimizing American citizens?
Yeah, so early in the Biden tenure, in early 2021, in both ICE and CBP, you cited one memo, but there were others, if you'll recall that time period, where the administration, through Secretary Mayorkas, intentionally made it difficult for both CBP and for ICE to accomplish their missions. It's part of, by the way, why the morale in those two organizations is as low as it has ever been, because you sign up to do a job and then you are actually impaired by your leadership from doing that job. And that's reflected in the number of criminals that are even coming into their custody to ICE. When CBP is catching and releasing 85% of their apprehensions, ICE doesn't even see most of these folks and doesn't get a chance to thoroughly vet them. CBP's vetting is not as thorough. They're not in detention. They're basically turned into a human processor right now under the Biden administration.
Thank you. And my next question is for Sheriff Chapman. In your testimony, you mentioned you were experiencing, quote, discouragement by this administration for local authorities to turn over illegal migrants to ICE. Can you clarify further what Mr. Cuccinelli's comments are, what the administration is doing to discourage you from turning over illegal aliens to ICE?
Well, I can certainly speak to that with regards to the police departments that's around the Washington, D.C. area. Certainly, Fairfax and some of the other departments around, where they're not even allowed to notify ICE about people that are incarcerated.
Unbelievable.
For us, we do. We take that, we go that extra mile. We make sure that we notify ICE in Loudoun County. That largely has to do with the fact that I'm an elected official, not answering to boards that have their own political agendas in place. So we do make every effort to contact ICE, and we have a very good success rate. The majority of people that ICE want turned over to them, we do in timely manner, and that way they can pursue whatever other charges they want to do.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Recognizing Ms. Mace from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On this hearing about communist China and the threats to our nation, as you know, Mr. Chairman, I think almost all Republicans in the House of Representatives are actually banned from Russia. I've heard a lot of Russian disinformation, misinformation today, and I would argue that democracy is not throwing your number one political opponent off the ballot in states so that you can threaten democracy. So the Chinese Communist Party is the greatest threat to the free world known to man. They are methodical, they are intentional, and they are dangerous. Unlike our country's more brazen enemies, the CCP plays the long game and acts covertly in an attempt to seemingly keep their hands clean. America sees right through it, and most of us, keyword most of us, know better. Whether it be through deadly Chinese fentanyl smuggled across our southern border, cyber warfare, or stealing of American data, intellectual property, trade secrets, etc., the Biden administration has failed to protect Americans, not only at our wide open southern border, but also our interests from the communist threat, all while funding jihad terrorism around the world. That's what this administration does. So, last month, a former employee at one of the largest American technology companies who was a Chinese spy was indicted and charged with 4 counts of theft of trade secrets in connection with a plan to steal proprietary information related to artificial intelligence from the company. The theft of advanced technologies plays into CCP's cyber warfare and threatens America's national security. My first question today goes to General Spalding. To advance its destructive ambitions, the CCP wants to become a cyber superpower. Do they aim to do this by having CC-backed operatives in America stealing emerging technologies from American companies?
They do, and they also seek to gather as much data as they can about the United States in order to become, in their term, an AI superpower.
Volt Typhoon has been recognized by the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, as a CCP hacker group that could disrupt critical communications and infrastructure, especially during times in future crises. The Volt Typhoon CCP hackers were able to plant themselves inside U.S. government systems, granting the CP the ability to disrupt and destruct cyber activity, including in critical infrastructure at any given point in time. Does the CCP have the ability to hack into our government systems using its hacking operations like Volt Typhoon and others?
Absolutely, and there's even more.
Even more. How does the CCP manage to hack into these systems? How do they do it?
Well, we spend a lot of money on kind of the hard iron of national security. They spend a lot of money on infiltration, political influence, and in particular having millions of hackers that are focused on these types of disruptive activities.
And they're doing it all day, every day, aren't they?
Every day.
If the U.S. government buys and uses equipment manufactured in China, could the CCP potentially access information on that equipment?
Absolutely, and that's one of the reasons why we push to get Huawei out of telecommunications networks around the free world.
What is the most vulnerable equipment that the government could purchase?
Well, I mean, obviously routers, but for our electric grid, those large power transformers that, for the most part, come from China are one of the biggest ones because they take years to build.
Okay. And then what are the dangers of CCP cyber warfare for just everyday Americans and then also critical infrastructure?
It's really about taking your data that you that comes from you being on these platforms, whether it be TikTok or Facebook or any of the others, and then learning how to influence you to not be a fan of our republic and to embrace a more authoritarian system. I mean, that's essentially what they're trying to do, and they've been very successful at it.
The CCP is trying to do that, but also, I mean, there are American companies, there are social media companies, there are apps that are essentially doing the same thing. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that, and I think that's part of the process. For some reason, we find ourselves in a global system, a global narrative system that is essentially aligned across the board between the free world and the authoritarian systems, which is something that has precipitated because of the rise of the internet and its influence on our lives.
And we've seen the Biden administration try to influence social media companies, including, weaponizing the FBI in that effort. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back.
Yields back, and our last questioner before we take a recess for votes will be Ms. Mace from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Got a little sidetracked by your answers, or actually non-answers, by Representative Perry this morning on EO 14019 about federal agencies, political appointees, specifically at federal agencies, and the electioneering that would be allowed under that executive order. Why do you choose not to answer his questions this morning?
Again, Congresswoman, I'm happy to take back specifics. This issue is not under my purview.
Do you believe that political appointees at federal agencies should be able to register voters and distribute mail-in ballots? Is that kind of electioneering constitutional, in your opinion?
I've been a political appointee now under 2 administrations.
Do you believe you should be registering voters, like federal agencies, political appointees at federal agencies should be allowed to register voters?
I've been a political appointee under 2 administrations, and we have very strict, clear restrictions on what we are allowed to do under the Hatch Act.
Right, and is it constitutionally the power of elections and their oversight resides with the states, is that correct?
Again, I have restrictions.
The answer is yes there. Okay, so I have a few questions in the last 3.5 minutes that I have this morning. I know that there is an effort afoot, as you mentioned today, talking about federal jobs and requirements and the kinds of folks we need to hire in our federal workforce. There are thousands of vacant federal IT jobs, and the federal workforce has 4 times as many IT workers over the age of 60 than under the age of 30. Huge problem. One part of the solution, I believe, is more creative hiring, thinking outside of the box. So this particular committee has voted out multiple bills of mine in almost unanimously, I think both times, totally unanimously, bipartisan way. And the bills that I have voted out of here, the Mace Act, H.R. 4502, which overwhelmingly passed actually out of the House last fall, also would waive and limit degree requirements for cybersecurity positions in federal government. And then just a couple weeks ago, we passed out of this committee H.R. 7887, the Access Act, which would do the same thing for federal contractors, federal contracts and their workers. So do you agree that these measures would be important to meeting our hiring goals for federal agencies in cyber?
First, I agree with you that we have a significant issue on IT. An approach that is more oriented towards skills-based hiring is absolutely the right approach that we should be taking.
I agree. We're doing it in the private sector. There's no reason why we can't do it in federal government. Would you support both the Mace Act and the Access Act and their passage and being signed into law?
I'm not familiar with all of the specifics, but I am we are very supportive of making sure that we have a more skills-based hiring approach and would welcome working with you on that.
Okay. We need to protect the critical data in federal computers, such as personally identifiable information of tens of millions of Americans. But a series of reports show that too many federal employees are lax in their password protection. In fact, 1 in 5, there was a study done to look at passwords, and 1 in 5 agency email accounts, 18,000 in total. Most commonly used password was password 1234, some with a hyphen, some without a hyphen. Hundreds of accounts were using these passwords. Is there any way to hold federal employees accountable for not using appropriate cyber hygiene and putting America's data at risk when their accounts get hacked?
We absolutely need to strengthen cyber hygiene, and one of the ways that OMB is focused on doing that is driving multi-factor authentication across all of the federal workforce.
Is that a requirement?
We are driving agencies to have multi-factor authentication across federal personnel.
Do you know what percentage of federal employees are doing multi-factor?
I don't have a specific number, but happy to follow.
When did you guys start doing that push?
In 2021, the president issued an EO on cybersecurity with a broad range of measures. Our responsibility was over federal systems. We issued guidance, what we call our zero trust strategy, that has been focused on a range of actions for agencies to take on endpoint detection, on monitoring, on multi-factor authentication. We've also built those strategies into our budget process, so we make sure that agencies have...
And then I have 30 seconds. Are there any consequences for federal employees that don't follow guidance when it comes to password protection, cybersecurity issues, et cetera?
All federal employees are accountable to their managers on a broad range of...
How are they held accountable then? How is that done?
I can't speak to the specifics of any individual action, but federal employees are responsible for following the guidance of their agencies and their...
But then when they don't, what happens?
I don't want to speak to a hypothetical about a specific situation, but our expectation is that agencies are moving forward on improving their cyber hygiene and on multi-factor authentication.
But do you get reports back on how many federal employees are following guidance in cyber hygiene, like the numbers?
I don't want to give you an imprecise answer, but I'd be happy to follow up.
But are you getting reports at least?
Our OMB office monitors performance across agencies on things like multi-factor authentication, yes.
Okay, thank you, and I yield back. Thank you. I will now recognize myself for 5 minutes of questioning. I do have several questions, so if I could just ask if we could be brief and direct and straightforward in our responses, because I would like to try to get through all of them today. General Nakasone has stated that if a nation state decided to attack our critical infrastructure, I would say that's above the threshold level of war. And in the testimonies that was prepared, it refers to China's cyber warfare against the U.S. as a form of terrorism. And Mr. Evanina, you said today it was an existential threat in your words. So in the face of this terrorism, Mr. Evanina notes there's little deterrence also. So my first question to you, Mr. Evanina, if these CCP-driven hacking campaigns are a form of war on terrorism, Are we deterring China from conducting them?
Thanks for the question, Chairwoman Mace. If we are deterring it, I'm not aware of that. From an intel perspective and a law enforcement perspective and a cyber perspective, what they are doing to us is on the border of...
Why not? Why aren't we deterring?
You would have to ask the policymakers in that pace, but I do believe in the same, as they're preparing for battle, as we heard, and our critical infrastructure, I don't think it's reasonable for the minimum standards to ask companies to defend against nation-state threat actors and their proxies. I think it's a big task for them to do, and I think you as government should take more of a hand in defeating and deterring the Chinese Communist Party and their infrastructure.
Is it safe to say this administration doesn't have a strategy for deterrence?
I'm not aware what the current strategy is.
Okay. Okay, so my next questions will be for Mr. Evanina and Mr. Joyce. Do we know how many of America's critical computer systems have been infiltrated via the Volt Typhoon hacking campaign? Do we know?
I'm not aware.
Mr. Joyce?
I do not have that information.
Okay, so if it's achieving its goal of gaining undetected system access, how would we know?
So, Madam Chairwoman, I believe the combination of intelligence, right, that revealed this campaign, as well as the capabilities of the U.S. cybersecurity industry, has the ability to find and defeat some of these activities. But it's going to take a combination of both the public efforts, the private efforts, as well as the targeted entities have to remove some of their outdated legacy IT to be safe.
Debate that's been going on for the better part of 30 years, probably. Mr. Joyce, do we know how much money the CCP invests in cyber warfare?
I do not.
Mr. Evanina, do you know?
I do not.
Do we know what kind of manpower they throw into these efforts? We heard what FBI Director Wray said recently, 50-1 in terms of comparing it to FBI analysts, but do we know what kind of manpower they have?
I think that's a conservative estimate by Director Wray, but I also would include in that the cyber criminal actors and their proxies that are supported by the MSS and the PLA should be included in that number as well.
Okay, AI and quantum computing are powerful new tools in the arsenal of both hackers and defenders in cyberspace. How much does defense of critical U.S. computer system hinge on our ability to maintain and build upon our edge in AI over China? Either of you?
So I believe that AI is actually going to advantage the defense much more than the offense, especially in the near term. The ability to look at large scales of data to understand the tradecraft that might go undetected by human analysts is rapidly increasing by some of the innovations. So I do believe that's our advantage today.
Mr. Carmichael, I have a minute left. Your testimony states that Mandiant, you helped identify SolarWinds and the Colonial Pipeline disruption in 2021. Would you say China's Volt Typhoon campaign is designed to make even these major hacks pale in comparison?
So far, we've only seen intrusion operations that were very hard to detect, that were orchestrated by Volt Typhoon, plus many other threat actors emanating from China. We don't yet know what they might do, but we could tell you the capability and the access that they have is very significant, and they could certainly do anything similar to what happened to Colonial Pipeline, or even much worse, with the access that we know that they have.
And how could we respond to a slew of disruptions to critical operators if all this is happening all at once, if they did something all at once?
It would be very difficult to respond to. There's a finite amount of security talent and investigators and incident responders that could help respond to security events. And so if there were a cascading set of security attacks against organizations, it would be incredibly difficult to respond to it.
All right, thank you. And I'll now...
Madam Chair. And I think as we continue to talk today, it's important to know PLAs are a very flexible vehicle that can be tailored to the individual project needs and the individual contractor that's going to use them. And so as we go to think about how we're doing that, they have the ability to go and look at local workforce, inclusivity, cost, all of those things that go in to make a project. Thank you very much.
And thank you. I now recognize myself for 5 minutes of questioning. All right, I would like to start with you, Mr. Brubeck, today, this afternoon. Non-union construction workers who manage to get on a PLA project can lose 1/3 of their total compensation to wage theft. According to one study, it found the rule could result in $500 million being stolen from non-union workers employed on federal construction projects. Is it fair for non-union workers to be forced to pay union dues and contribute to union pension plans for which they do not benefit?
Thank you for the question. I'll say that it is rare for non-union construction workers to be allowed on PLA projects. They can be allowed on PLA projects, but typically what happens is that they have to pay fringe benefits into the union pension and benefits plans. And those are confiscated by the union unless they join a union and become vested in those programs. So the net effect of that is that non-union contractors who want to use their own employees don't bid on PLA projects.
Gotcha. Most of your members are small businesses. Under the PLA mandate, all subcontractors on a project must abide by the terms of the PLA, even if they had no role in negotiating the terms. How do small businesses feel about the PLA mandate?
They're devastated by it. I've been getting calls every day from small businesses who are saying, I can't build federal contracts in my own backyard. I get 80% of my revenue from these types of contracts. Once I work through my backlog, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to lay off workers. There's no exemption in the rule for small businesses at all. The PLAs are very complicated to negotiate for small business direct contractors. A lot of the construction trade unions are going to have a hard time negotiating these contracts with small businesses because they have no familiarity with doing so. So it's a killer for small businesses, especially in a time when the federal government is begging for federal contractors, especially small businesses, to compete for this work. We've seen a massive decline in small business participation in the construction industry for federal contracts by more than 60%. So this is going to make it worse on top of all these other regulations that the industries are facing.
A heck of a lot worse. Mr. Dreer, in the past, agency contracting officers, nonpartisan civil servants entrusted to get the best value for the government have chosen not to mandate PLAs even when encouraged to do so. Why do you think that is?
Fair and open competition, right? Getting more contractors, whether they're union or open shop, giving them the opportunity to bid the work and let the client decide what the best value is for the American taxpayer and not mandate that only union companies can bid the work. So.
The Biden administration says PLAs are necessary to ensure major projects are finished on time and without stoppages. Is that actually true?
No, absolutely not.
The administration says that merit shop companies and their employees can participate in PLA projects. However, these typically require union work rules be followed and that contributions to union pension plans be paid. Why is it a problem for your workforce to be restricted to operating under union work rules?
We're 100% employee-owned. Every one of our team members, 4,000 strong, is an owner of a company. And to, take union workforce, right? Then we have to pay into their benefits and everything. That results in my team members not having a job, right? So that's a major issue for us and certainly a challenge.
They're going to employ a lot of people with this policy, aren't they? Yeah. Mr. Ludday, since 97% of construction workers in Louisiana are non-union, could this mandate result in fewer state residents getting work on projects that the state itself is helping to finance?
Yes, we believe so, that it discourages local businesses from competing in these large-scale projects.
How has your agency been able to successfully contract out construction work without mandating PLAs?
Well, since 2005, working with the Corps of Engineers, we've built the largest hurricane protection system in the nation without PLA mandates. That's the Greater New Orleans Hurricane Risk Storm Damage Reduction System. And so we believe there's precedent there, and that was done on time and under budget.
Are you concerned about the additional costs and budgetary risks the PLA mandate will create?
Yes, our state is concerned.
Are you concerned that you will not be able to work with some of the contractors you've worked with in the past due to this mandate?
Yeah, our concern is that for those federal projects, those contractors will be discouraged from competition there.
This is a question for everyone on the panel, Mr. Brubeck. Is this mandate going to cost American companies, private companies, jobs? Are they going to have to lay people off?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been talking to our membership about this, and they're very concerned. Once they burn through their backlog that they currently have, normally they're earning work and winning work competitively in this time frame. And once that's over, they're not sure what they're going to do. They got to make revenue somewhere else, and this may result in them having to lay off people or find other work elsewhere.
Thank you, and I have just run out of time, so I will yield back. Okay, we have not called votes yet, so Mr. Connolly, I would like to recognize you for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to point out that Mr. Dreher
Gentlelady yields. Chair recognizes Ms. Mace from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The 14th Amendment of the Constitution and the Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibit discrimination on the basis of sex. That has been the law of the land for decades. Unfortunately, Joe Biden is confused. Shocker. The Biden administration and their, quote, gender Taliban can't even define what it means to be a woman. They are erasing what it means to be women and endangering women and girls in the process. The Biden administration's Equal Employment Opportunity Commission in April of this year updated guidance on what constitutes sex-based discrimination. Under the Biden administration's guidance, use someone's biologically correct pronouns or their legal name, guess what? It's workplace discrimination. Acknowledging someone identifies as a different gender without their permission, workplace discrimination. Insist that biological men use the bathroom or locker room designated for biological men and not terrorize women and girls in the girls' bathroom, workplace discrimination. Where did we lose our way? This is absurd. I tell my kids, when you come home from school with pronouns, you don't come home from school with pronouns, you come home with A's and B's. I don't want to know your pronouns. I don't care about your pronouns. That is not what we should be talking about in school. We should be talking about A's and B's, math, writing, and arithmetic. This guidance by the Biden administration infringes on the First Amendment rights of American workers, threatens the safety of women and girls, and serves to further erase and erode what it means to be a woman. Which leads me to my first question, Ms. Wiley. Can you define what a woman is?
A woman is a person who says she is. And let me just tell you one story about this, because when I was a child...
No, you're not going to tell me a story. We're not doing that right now. It's not story time.
Yeah, it is story time, because when I was a child, I was
No, it's not. I'm going to reclaim my
boy.
time. Be quiet. I'm going to reclaim my time right now. Biological women are real women. A guy born as a man who wants to pretend to be a woman and put him and his big Jim and the twins in the locker room with underage girls, or his little Jim and twins, by the way, is disgusting. I have a daughter. She turned 14 last year. I took her to a store called Aerie for her birthday. We went shopping for an hour in downtown Charleston, South Carolina. She was taken to her dressing room by a biological male in a miniskirt and a lace bralette. It is disgusting. I have no idea if that man was over 18 or under 18. It is absolutely disgusting that we're redefining what women are and allowing men into women's private spaces. And by the way, Ms. Wiley, I am a survivor of rape. I was raped at the age of 16. I am not going to put other women and girls into unsafe situations where biological men with their willy-nillys out putting women and girls at risk. It's absurd, it's disgusting, and I have 1 minute and 50 seconds left of my questioning. Do you believe, Ms. Wiley, that you need to have a PhD in biology to know what a woman is? Yes or no? Is that a yes or a no?
I first
to
want
my
to just say
question?
you
I'm
are
running
right.
out of time.
I am so sorry, and you should never
You
have had
didn't
to
do
suffer
it?
from
Do you
sexual
need a PhD
violence.
in biology to know what a woman is? I've been rape shamed by the left, and I'm not going to allow any of that stuff to happen today. Do you believe that you need a PhD to define what a woman is? Yes or no is the question.
I think every woman is able to define herself as a woman.
It's not how it works. There's biology and science. I would encourage every American to follow the science. Are there risks to women when biological men are in a bathroom with them, Ms. Wiley? Yes or no?
We have every reason to want everyone to be
Can't
safe.
even
and
answer the question.
We are
so
not
the left,
safe
everybody,
or
listen
unsafe.
to the left today. They cannot say yes or no when in asking whether or not there are risks to women when biological men are in the bathroom. Can't even say yes or no in the hearing today. This is lunacy. This is absurd. This gender-bending ideology of the left is disgusting. It's absurd, it's absolute lunacy, and it is a mental health issue in our country. If you agree with this ideology of allowing men into women's spaces, you have a mental health problem in this country. I don't have to go on about the Planet Fitness in Alaska just a few weeks ago or months ago where this guy in his boxers is in the locker room shaving, and there's an underage girl in a towel in the locker room with him. This stuff is disgusting, and I'm going to do everything in my power as a conservative woman in this country, in Congress, to protect all of our women and girls from this lunacy that's happening in the country today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Chair recognizes.
Mr. Chair, I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a new report from the Southern Poverty Law Center that describes how pseudoscience has become a tool to manipulate public opinion and advance legislation and legal actions targeting the LGBT community.
Without objection, so ordered. Chair now recognizes Mr. Groffman from Wisconsin.
I'd like to thank you for having this hearing.
1 second.
Mr. Reagan, as part of the so-called Inflation Reduction Act, the EPA established the Office of Environmental Justice and External Civil Rights, which now manages $3 billion for environmental and climate justice to fund community-based NGOs. As part of the allocation, $600 million is devoted to the Environmental Justice Thriving Communities grant-making program, which has shown serious signs of waste, fraud, and abuse. More alarmingly, some of this money has been designated for groups opposed to the interests of the United States and her allies. So my questions today, Mr. Reagan, are yes or no, very simply yes or no. Administrator Reagan, environmental justice grantees have partners and affiliates who also receive funds from the EPA. Are any of these groups or affiliates who receive this money anti-American, yes or no?
Not that I'm aware of.
Are any of these groups who receive this money anti-Semitic, yes or no?
Not that I'm aware of.
Are any of these groups explicitly anti-Israel?
You're talking about that have received money?
That are on the list to receive money, correct? Yes or no? Are any of these groups explicitly anti-Israel? Do they hate Jews?
None of these groups have
Okay, are any of these groups opposed to police and law enforcement? Yes or no?
I think we have to establish the point that none of
The
these
question is yes or no. Are any of these groups opposed to police and law enforcement? Yes or no?
None of the groups have received money.
That's not the question. Are any of these groups who are allotted to get money from this fund anti-police? Yes or no?
I'm not.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. Are you familiar with the group called Climate Justice Alliance? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. I was surprised to learn that $50 million has been designated for Climate Justice Alliance, a group which explicitly publishes a Free Palestine section on its website. On the website, there are dozens of anti-Semitic and alarming images designed to be printed and used in the violent pro-Hamas protests we've seen across the country. Here are a few of them this morning. This first image includes a slogan that is widely recognized as a call to eradicate the state of Israel. Is this the official position of the Biden EPA? Yes or no?
Is it the what?
Official position of Biden's EPA. Yes or no?
That is not our problem.
Does this sign protect the environment? Yes or no?
That is not our problem.
This group, where this image came from, is designated to receive $50 million.
Has that group received
So
any
this sign says Freedom for Palestine. What does it say at the bottom? From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Should taxpayers pay for this kind of thing,
Well, I
yes
think
or
you're
no?
misrepresenting the fact.
We're not misrepresenting. My second image that I'm going to show you today,
You're
this
misrepresenting the
image
facts.
calls, I'm speaking and I'm going to reclaim my time.
Yeah, you're misrepresenting.
This image calls to defund the police and accuses the United States of violence. Is this the official position of Biden's EPA, yes or no?
No, that's a product.
Okay,
of a
does
third
this
party.
sign protect the environment, yes or no?
I don't know what that's.
The group that produces this sign is allotted to get $50 million from U.S. taxpayers. The
What-
next
what is your
image,
definition
The
of
next
allotted?
image I'm going to show you, I would like you to read this poster from your seat. Can you tell me what this says?
I think you can read for yourself.
I'm asking you to read the poster. What does it
You
say?
can read it for yourself. I abhor.
What does it
bigotry.
say? This
I
image
abhor
says,
bigotry, and I will not
abolish
repeat.
prisons everywhere. This image says, free Palestine. This image says, stop Cop City. This group that produced this poster is allotted to receive $50 million from U.S. taxpayers.
That group has
This
not
is
received
disgusting.
one dime from
This
EPA.
image, this next image, adds an anti-Semitic message, and it calls for defunding the police. This is particularly special. Is this the position, the official position of Biden's EPA? Yes or no?
That fund, they have not received one dime.
Does this sign protect the environment? They are slated to receive $50 million
They have
from
not received
taxpayers.
one dime from EPA.
So you're saying on this next image, this is probably the left's favorite. The quote on this image is from a convicted murderer of a police officer that is still at large and wanted by the FBI. Does the Biden EPA support this position? Yes or no?
These hypotheticals.
So today,
have nothing to do with
our
EPA.
witness can't even answer the questions. $50 million was going to go to this organization vis-a-vis U.S. taxpayers. So you're going to tell me today, are you promising that this group will not receive a single dime? Yes or no?
None of these groups that you have paraded up here have received one dime.
Will you promise to ensure that they won't receive a single taxpayer dollar? This particular group is slated to get $50 million.
Listen,
will you promise me today that they will get zero?
First of all,
yes or no?
half the things you've put up there are offensive, right?
They are offensive, and like I said, it is a fact. This group is going to get, is slated to get $50 million from U.S. taxpayers. So our witness today, let's show, can't even answer the question.
Madam Chair, will you just allow him to answer you? I think it'd be fair to allow him to answer you.
None
He
of
hasn't
these
answered a
groups have
single
gotten
question.
one dime from EPA, for the record.
Will you promise today that they will receive $0?
None of these groups have gotten one dime from EPA.
I'm sitting in the chair, you're not. So thank you, and I yield back. All right, I will now yield.
I have to say, Director, we're pretty close to the halfway point during this. You answered more questions with an ABC reporter than you have with members of Congress. We have a lot more questions. The American people are demanding that we get answers to those questions, and that's what the purpose of this hearing is today. So I'm sure a lot of the questions that have already been asked are going to be asked again, and hopefully we can get some answers to those questions. I strongly implore you to answer those questions. You're here with a subpoena, and we expect you to answer the questions. Chair now recognizes Ms. Mace from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Cheadle, the American people are watching, and they're wondering if there are any questions you can answer honestly today. So, Director Cheadle, I have a series of questions, very specific questions. I want very specific answers. Most of my questions are going to demand a yes or no answer. Do you understand?
I do.
Okay, my first question. Both sides of the aisle today have asked for your resignation. Would you like to use my 5 minutes to draft your resignation letter, yes or no?
No, thank you.
Was this a colossal failure?
It was a failure.
Yes or no? Was it a colossal failure is the question, yes or no?
I have admitted this is a terrible
This is a yes or no series of questions. Was this a colossal failure, yes or no?
Yes.
Was this tragedy preventable, yes or no?
Yes.
Has the Secret Service been transparent with this committee?
Yes.
Would you say the fact that we had to issue a subpoena to get you to show up today as being transparent, yes or no?
I have always been
yes
eager to
or no?
come
You didn't
and
want to
talk
answer
to
the question.
committee.
We had to issue a subpoena to get you to show up today. That is not transparent, by the way. You stated earlier, Secret Service is not political. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Would you say leaking your opening statement to Punchbowl News, Politico's Playbook, and Washington Post several hours before you sent it to this committee as being political, yes or no?
I have no idea how my statement got out.
Well, that's bullshit. So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask unanimous consent to enter into the record articles by Punchbowl News, Political Playbook, Washington Post, all done at 5:24 a.m., 6:12 a.m., 6:34 a.m., a solid 3 to 4 hours before this committee got your statement.
Without objection, so ordered.
Okay. Is the Secret Service fully cooperating with our committee?
Yes.
Okay, you say you're fully cooperating with this committee. On July 15th, this committee sent you a list of demands of information that we wanted. Has the Secret Service provided this committee a complete list of all law enforcement personnel that were there that day? Have you done that? Have you provided a list to the Oversight Committee? Yes or no?
I will have to get back to you on that.
That is a no. Have you provided all audio and video recordings in your possession to this committee, as we asked on July 15th, yes or no?
I would have to get back to you.
That is a no. You're full of shit today. You're just being completely dishonest.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
Chairman,
I want to.
Come on.
We have to maintain decorum in this committee, no matter how
have you provided
upset we
any
get.
and all memos to this committee that we've asked you on July 15th? Have you provided all memorandums within the Secret Service?
I would have to get back to you on
That is a no. You are being dishonest or lying. Like you're being dishonest here with this committee. These are important questions that the American people want answers to, and you're just dodging and talking around it in generalities. And we had to subpoena you to be here, and you won't even answer the questions. We have asked you repeatedly to answer our questions. This isn't hard. These are not hard questions. Have you provided us all communications from the Secret Service related to that day and that rally? Have you provided this committee? We've asked for this information on July 15th. Have you provided any of this information that this committee has asked of the Secret Service? Any of it?
I'll have to get back to you.
Have you even read this letter that we sent you? Did you even read this?
Yes.
Okay, and you have said you don't know, you have no idea. Well, the answer is no. We haven't gotten a single document or piece of information or data from you or your agency in related to the rally that we have asked you for. So, was this attempted assassination of Donald Trump a failure of training or execution or both?
I think that those are answers that we need to examine.
Training, execution, or both? Which one?
I think those are answers.
All right. How many Secret Service personnel have lost their jobs due to this colossal failure?
At this time, none.
How many Secret Service personnel have been required to take a refresher course on how not to let people shoot Donald Trump?
Our personnel are currently operational. We are examining the facts of this investigation, and we will make the changes necessary.
What time did law enforcement become aware that there was an individual on the roof with a clear line of sight to President Trump?
I am still verifying timelines.
Of course, 9 days in, you have no answers. How many minutes went by between the time law enforcement saw and took photos of crooks and the shooting? How many minutes?
I am still verifying timelines.
57 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Before I recognize Mr. Stansberry, I believe I want to recognize Mr. Mfume for a unanimous consent.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I beg your indulgence.
Okay, I'm going to yield my last minute or two to the general next to me. I find it deeply ironic here that some of my colleagues are saying that we lacked decorum when literally the ranking member said we were throwing a temper tantrum this morning because want to issue a subpoena. I find it ironic when the ranking member called us conspiracy theorists. I got to tell you right now, no one on this committee went to Project 2025 and said, hey, what are we doing today at 10 a.m. or 10:15 a.m.? That is not a thing. That is a conspiracy theory that you all on the left, the radical left, continue to espouse, and it's just not true. And here we are, you all are dividing, being very divisive in your comments today. You're saying we're putting politics over veterans, when you all are literally doing the thing that you're projecting, you guys are actually doing. And it is insulting to veterans. It is insulting to every member of this committee to sit here and come in here and tell us just because we're issuing a subpoena that we're throwing a temper tantrum. The federal government has no business being a political arm. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is an executive order. This is a fact. We deal in facts and not fiction on this committee. And I am deeply insulted that as you all espouse, oh, let's not be divisive and let's have decorum, and this is deeply insulting when you guys are literally throwing adjectives around at us and saying that we're the ones that are crazy and when we are not. We're dealing with facts here and real information. And to see members of this committee put politics over veterans, we should be helping every single veteran in this country who do have access to register. They do have the ability to vote. They can vote in every single election. Yet it's my colleagues against the aisle, on the other side of the aisle, that will vote down a measure like the SAVE Act to ensure only citizens vote in U.S. elections. It is my colleagues across the aisle that don't want to vote for and support voter ID in this country to ensure only citizens are voting in our elections. And so the hypocrisy is real. I'm having none of it. I'm going to yield the rest of my time to the general, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The program integrity tool, or PIT system, was shut down for approximately 18 months while the VA struggled to find its way to a partial solution. And this only happened after this committee got involved. At a minimum, taxpayers deserve an explanation for what happened and why the VA took so long to get all of this sorted out. So my first question today is for you, Mr. Del Bene. How much did the PIT cost to develop and then operate for 10 years?
Thank you for the question. I don't know that I have the 10-year number. Our annual budget was around $5 million for the pit.
Okay. Also, for the first 5 months of the shutdown, the contractor was making server, operating system, and database upgrades to PIT. Were these successful?
They were.
You testified that you raised issues with the contractor's quality of work, resulting in new contractor leadership and a larger team. Did you terminate the contract or simply let it expire?
We did not terminate the contract. I made a judgment decision that it was better to get them working on the problem with a larger team, with a commitment to the CEO of SAIC, and that's the direction we took.
Okay.
That's what resulted in us being able to effectively bring it back online. I would also say, without in any way minimizing the work that they did that caused these problems, they were very diligent in helping us fix the problems once this was raised to their attention.
You removed the senior executive in charge of the project because he or she was not, quote, engaged enough. What does that mean?
I believe that no matter how large your portfolio of systems is, you should understand each of them intimately so that you understand when things are off the rails. And I didn't believe that this executive had that mindset. And so we moved him to another position. He's subsequently left the VA.
Okay. So no one was fired or anything like that?
He was removed from his position.
Okay. And when did this happen?
I'll have to get back to you on the precise date, but it was part of this reset process that caused that.
Okay. And then when did you personally get involved with fixing the pit?
I got involved, I believe it was probably March or April. I can get back to you on a specific date. I will say since I learned of it, I have met weekly with the team.
Do you know roughly when that was?
I'm sorry?
Do you know roughly?
In the spring, and I can give you
spring
the
of this
exact
year?
date. Yeah, this executive alerted me to it, and I said, I've got to dig deep.
Why not
into that
sooner,
right away.
I guess? You just found out about it in the springtime?
That's the first I heard about it. I dug in the minute I heard about it.
Okay. Do you take any responsibility for this mess?
I do. I think that anything that's under my watch is my responsibility.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back. Appreciate it.
I now recognize the gentleman from Texas.
Chair recognizes the gentlelady from South Carolina, Ms. Mace.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My colleagues across the aisle said that those that cannot pronounce Kamala's name correctly are elementary-aged children. I would like to enter into the record an article by Newsweek saying Bill Clinton pronounces Kamala Harris' name wrong during DNC speech. Bill Clinton, along with Al Sharpton, rapper Lil Jon. Let's not forget that Joe Biden can't say her name right. Neither can Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor. And this morning on Morning Joe, Joan Baez called her a camel. So I don't want to hear it. It's fake outrage. I would like to also enter into the record a screenshot of a text message I received from the esteemed professor from Vanderbilt, Michael Eric Dyson, after my CNN interview, begged me for photos. In this text, he says, after calling me racist on CNN, shh, don't tell anybody, we look good together, and sent me a kissy emoji.
Without objection.
Then the guy
Order.
says I'm gorgeous in all these photos. I don't think he's that bent out of shape on how anyone pronounces Kamala. And if we're going to have that standard, you got to hold it to both sides, not just one or the other. On to the issue at hand, I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for our witnesses being here today. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have presided over the worst presidential administration in American history. Biden and Kamala Harris inherited a country with a strong economy and next to zero inflation. Under the Biden-Harris administration, inflation skyrocketed, wages stagnated, and the American families are struggling to make ends meet, as we're all well aware of today. Biden and Kamala inherit a world at peace and turned it into a world at war. Our allies are under attack, our adversaries emboldened, and America embarrassed on the world stage. In fact, even being forced to evacuate 7 embassies during this administration. Biden and Kamala inherit a country with the most secure border in our nation's history. They flung our borders wide open to the largest invasion of illegal aliens our country has ever seen. The illegal aliens Biden and Kamala have led into our country have gone on to rape and murder American citizens, including our women and girls, including 158 Democrats who voted against deporting illegals who are here, murdering, raping, and who are also pedophiles, harming are women and girls. Biden and Kamala can't even tell us the difference between a woman and a mentally ill man in a dress. Of all Joe and Kamala's many failings, I'd like to focus my 5 minutes today on immigration. I'm down to about 2, so we'll be quick. During her failed 2020 presidential campaign, well before her coup against Joe Biden, Kamala Harris completed an ACLU candidate questionnaire outlining her policy positions. I'd like to examine a few of her responses and how they've informed her work as border czar, since she says her values have not changed. Mr. Chairman, I would like to enter into the record this questionnaire, ACLU Rights for All Candidate Questionnaire 2019, Kamala Harris.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you. One of the strangest responses from Kamala in the questionnaire was when she indicated she supported providing taxpayer-funded so-called gender-affirming care for illegal aliens in immigration detention, which we all know is cutting off their private parts. Taxpayer-funded cutting off of their private parts. So, Mr. Krikorian, is this occurring under this administration, and what are the serious safety consequences it may pose?
Well, I mean, the safety consequences of the procedures themselves I'm not qualified to talk about, but clearly it serves as yet one more incentive for people to illegally immigrate into the United States. In this case, people seeking a particular kind of medical procedures.
In the questionnaire, Kamala pledges to slash funding for ICE, cut immigration detention by more than 50%, and even express support for ending immigration detention. Have Biden-Harris presidential budget requests reflected Kamala's desire to cut ICE funding and immigration detention?
Detention funding, absolutely. It's decreased significantly, and in fact, it needs to be increased significantly because detention is the one way you're going to be able to deter people who want to come into the United States and be released. If you don't release them, the appeal of trying and spending all of that money is significantly less.
She pledged to end the use of ICE detainers and criticized the cooperation between ICE and state and local law enforcement. How is this going to negatively affect our country?
It would make it extremely difficult to enforce immigration law because ICE is a relatively small agency and doesn't walk around the streets asking people what their green cards are. The main vehicle for finding illegal aliens, if you don't do worksite enforcement, which this administration has essentially stopped, is working with state and local law enforcement. When they arrest people for state and local crimes, their fingerprints go to DHS and they're flagged as somebody that they know to be an illegal immigrant. A detainer is the request ICE sends out to say, hold on to this person for 48 hours at least, up to 48 hours so we can go and get them. If you're not using detainers, it is one of the most pro-criminal policies you could imagine because the only people protected by stopping ICE detainers or not honoring them as sanctuary cities do, the only people protected are criminals. So it is a pro-criminal policy as well as an anti-immigration enforcement in general policy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Gentlelady.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And talking about extraordinary foolish, I know that was said earlier by one of our witnesses. It's not just cities, it's counties too. I've been nuking Charleston County Sheriff over the last 24 hours over her lies about the illegals that are in South Carolina, her lies about releasing them into our state, and that sort of thing. And when you're talking about New York, Mr. Biggs, if you talk to an NYPD officer, they'll tell you they're not charging these illegals with crimes. And then when they do, they're released and they're not given a bail or bond when they go out. And so the left, it's just all one big lie, and it's not right to the American people. And the statistic that crime is down for migrants, every illegal who is here illegally entered our country illegally. They literally committed a crime on the way in. So they are 100% guilty of committing a crime. Mr. Chairman, I brought a folder today because I'm going to enter in some documents into the congressional record this afternoon. So I want to thank our witnesses for being here today. I'm going to focus my time on the human costs of sanctuary policies from local officials, including Charleston County Sheriff, Sanctuary Sheriff Kristen Graziano, and I hope she's watching today. If she's watching, I hope you have a number 2 pencil and you take notes, because this is how I do my job. Charleston County Sheriff, the Charleston County, actually, in my district, used to be a model for cooperation between ICE and local law enforcement. It is no more. Charleston County had a 287G cooperation agreement in place with ICE, acted as an over 72-hour detention facility for aliens apprehended by ICE, and worked together to enforce our nation's laws and keep our community safe. No more because of Sanctuary Sheriff Kristen Graziano. Unfortunately, in early 2021, the new sheriff of Charleston County, Sanctuary Sheriff Kristen Graziano, began a systematic effort to dismantle immigration enforcement in Charleston County. Sheriff Graziano, on her first day in office, terminated Charleston County's 287G cooperation agreement with ICE. She announced this in front of a taco shop. I don't know why. So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask unanimous consent to enter this picture of Sheriff Graziano terminating her 287G agreement in front of El Pincho Taco into the record.
Without objection.
Thank you. I also would like to request unanimous consent to enter this photo. It's Sanctuary Sheriff Kristen Graziano's Twitter header. Here she is with wide open borders are Kamala Harris. Here she is with Joe Biden, who often loved to walk away from the podium and not take questions from press, just like Sanctuary Sheriff Kristen Graziano did today at her own press conference. I'm not sure who did it better, her or Joe Biden. Mr. Chairman, I would like to enter this.
Without
record.
objection.
Thank you. I would like to she refuses to notify, Sheriff Graziano refuses to notify ICE when a criminal illegal alien is in custody and refuses to provide adequate hold time for ICE to assume custody. I'm going to request unanimous consent, Mr. Chairman, to enter her statement yesterday where she says, our policy clearly states on our public website we only hold residents for ICE if they have a I-247, a detainer immigration center signed by an immigration judge. That's per her office policy. I would like to enter her statement into the record, Mr. Chairman.
Without objection.
In that same vein, I'm going to enter her own office policy that says she can and will release criminal illegal aliens into South Carolina. This is her policy she cites as the reason she does this. Did you know she wrote and signed off on her own department policy? It doesn't get any dumber than this. Literally is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in South Carolina history. Her department has been designated as a non-cooperative by ICE. Mr. Chairman, I would like to enter this list of non-cooperative institutions into the congressional record, sir.
Without objection.
All right, I'm running out of time. I'm going to enter and request unanimous consent to enter this document from ICE. She called me a liar today, where she has released over 50 illegal immigrants into South Carolina, Mr. Chairman.
Without objection.
I would like to request unanimous consent to enter all my letters to Sheriff Graziano and ICE into the congressional record over her behavior.
Without objection.
And lastly, she called me a liar today, and she also said that crime has gone down, violent crime has gone down in Charleston County. Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask for unanimous consent to enter the SLED, State Law Enforcement Division's Crime in South Carolina annual report, where it shows violent crime is up. Murders, aggravated assaults, stolen vehicles, etc. It's up, it's not down, it's a lie. Mr. Chairman?
Without objection.
Thank you, and I yield back.
Paul, go